All right, so we are joined by WKRN out of Nashville sports reporter and anchor Samaria Terry, who also used to be at WREG in Memphis and right here in Jackson at WJTV 12 as well. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for our friends at Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. And we are in the Arts AV career cluster, and I couldn't think of anybody better to share about that career than you. So thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me come on. I'm
Yeah.
excited about it.
Oh, awesome. Now, before we get into what you do, you're originally from Atlanta and you went to
Yeah.
Auburn University.
Yeah, I
So,
have my blanket right
uh,
here.
well, that's better than the Tide. So, just talk about your experience at Auburn University, and because I went to a large SEC school as well. So, talk a little bit about the experience there because everybody sees the sports side of it, but these are also great academic institutions.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's funny because I actually went there wanting to major in science and physics, and then decided very early that, wait, this is not what I want to do. So let me move over to liberal arts, and get my degree in journalism. And either way, it was a great school for both. If I wanted to do COSAM or liberal arts, it didn't matter. Auburn was great regardless. And they had a really good program. There's was called Gray now, but it was Nexstar, a media company, and we had a studio on campus, and they gave us equipment from their stations in Montgomery and Columbus. So we were able to really work with those two stations that weren't that far from us. And then also my junior year, ESPN came and they built a studio on campus. So then we got to work with them, and it was called War Eagle Productions, and we got to do like linear broadcast.
Wow.
So it was really fun.
Yeah,
We
that's
had
incredible.
some
And
fun.
we actually have a multimedia program in Madison County Schools, and we have an
Okay.
on-campus program here at Belma Jackson. So it's kids are getting into that sooner and sooner. Now, to
Yes.
me, I think you have one of the coolest jobs in the world. But I think it's important for these kids to understand that it's not just let's just hang out and watch the games. There's a ton more to it because,
No.
like you said, you talked about getting the equipment. You have to be trained on equipment. You have to be trained on how to speak and write and edit your own. Because I was telling them before we got on, I've seen you myself in person shoot your own footage, and then
Yeah.
later that night I saw you on air and you had edited your footage and then you presented it. And then Wednesday we watched a clip about Shanae Agumake. And she
Okay.
talked about, when that red light comes on, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. You got to be ready because at the end of the day, it's a television show.
Yeah.
But when you're there and you're talking to Derrick Henry or you're talking to John Morant or you're talking to Fred McNair or some of the people that you've dealt with over the years, you can't just go up there and be a fan. You have to be professional and you have to be able to present it to the viewers that are wanting information.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah,
that's great. Like I always tell people the sports department is the only department in a newsroom where we do everything. So like you just mentioned, we will go out, we'll shoot our own stuff, we'll edit our own stuff, we produce our own sports cast, and then we have to go out and anchor it. Nobody else in this station does that but us. I think that makes us really valuable. But
oh, absolutely, especially in a major city like Nashville, because on top of the Titans, you have the soccer team, you have the Sounds, you have Vanderbilt, you have TSU. So there's a lot of things to
yeah.
cover, and you can't. And again, and we all know with television, the viewers are going to control it. They're going to complain that you're not showing enough of something. They're going to complain you didn't cover the golf tournament enough that was in town. So you really have to be able to be well versed. It can't just be, yeah, I'm a Titans fan. I'm gonna go talk to Derrick Henry every day. Yeah, that's cool, but there's a lot of other things in the area that deserve and need coverage.
Yeah, and I know for when I was in Memphis, I got to talk to some U of M students, and I think the point of emphasis with them was you still got to know the basics. I know like a lot of them want to maybe do podcast or you want to just talk sports on your Instagram page, but you still need to know what a package is, what a VOSOT is, what a VO is, how to cut sound and all of those things, because that's going to take you really far. And just if you want to do TV, writing is also really important too. So I majored in journalism. I didn't major in broadcast. So really my background is in writing.
Wow.
And if you can write, then you can talk, right? So it's just kind of remembering that because you're still going to have to do your web articles based off of what the television part of it.
Yeah, and I know you started out in the smaller markets, and now you're
Yeah.
in a larger market. But about usually how many people are working during a newscast? Because there's a lot more people working than just the people you see on camera.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll have your anchors, you'll have your reporters, but then the photographers are in there. Then you have Then we go over to production side. So you'll have a director, a producer, person running audio, people running cameras in the studio. So there's a lot of behind the scenes to make all of this kind of churn. And
Yeah, and if somebody's not comfortable speaking on camera, which I can get, you can still find a great career in news because, like you said, if you're able to write, you have you have technology skills. I mean, obviously, there at WKRN, you guys have a great web team. So there's a lot of skills that go into this, other than the people that you see in front of the camera.
Yeah, there's, like you just said, if you don't want to be on camera, you could be a producer, you could be a director, you can be an editor, you could be you could work with our graphics department and make graphics every day. So there's a lot of different, or engineer, IT, there's a lot of different fields that you can go inside of a news station if being on camera isn't comfortable for you.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you talked about that, because more and more kids say, they want to write like they text. And in the journalism field, especially if you're interviewing people, you can't talk like that. You got to be able to ask professional questions and ask the right questions. And then even if also on the investigative side, on more of the news side, you got to be able to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And even for the sports fans, they want to know why somebody's hurt. You don't want to go in there and not be able to ask what the fans are wanting to hear.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. In college, they will learn about AP style, and I have several AP style books that I reference. And even AP style is always changing, but that's the correct way that you're supposed to write and those types of things. But yeah, you don't want to, and you kind of mentioned this early in our conversation about just not being a fan. You want to be professional. This is work. So you want to speak like, you're talking to somebody of importance. You're not talking to your friend, you're not texting, so that is really important. I'm glad that you brought that up. Yeah. And that goes a long way too.
Oh, absolutely.
You can show that you're professional in
any field, but especially when you're in front of a camera, that just, it can't be emphasized enough. So, now how much, and I know you're not that old, but you've been in it a few years now. So, how much has technology changed from the time you started in Texas to where you are now in Nashville?
Oh gosh, it hasn't changed too much. I think what really has changed is just putting news more on social media. Like every year, it seems like that's more of a point of emphasis. It's like now you have TikTok and then Instagram, you want to put reels. Where before it was like, we'll just put it on Facebook and we'll tweet it out. Now I have to kind of adjust the way that I do. So
yeah, and that's funny because Howard Ballou actually told me that's the hardest part about his job.
Is the social media part? I can see that for Howard. Yeah.
Now when it comes to schedules, because TV people have a different schedule than anybody else, and it's crazy. The news station's open 24 hours a day. But like you said, the Titans had a game last night, and now y'all got to come shoot the show on Friday morning. So were you probably was it a home game last night? So you were at Nissan?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was they were in Green Bay, but yeah, I usually work night side. So I usually will work 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. normally if I'm anchoring, but then if Titans have practice, then I'm coming in a little bit early, or if I have a shoot earlier, then that adjusts my schedule. I was here to like almost midnight last night, and then I was back up this morning at 8 a.m. to come in and get ready for the show that we have to shoot. So it's fun. That's why I'm drinking coffee.
Yeah, and that's also, and another, if Mike Vrabel wants to call a news conference at 10 a.m., y'all got to get up and be there. If Vanderbilt wants to make a big announcement about an upcoming game, y'all got to be there. So it's not just I only work 2 to 11. You really have to follow the news because the viewers want to see it and they want it covered.
Yeah, and that's not just in sports. That's in that's in news too. So
now, what other? Because I know, and we watched your. I love the story you did. One of the first stories you did here at WJTV was the archery story you did over at MC.
Oh yeah.
So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, what are some other sports that you've had to be more familiar with? That you found out the viewers have wanted to see? Because one thing, Rob J told me that he had to actually go buy a book on golf because he had to learn the game because he said so many viewers wanted it covered, and he was like, "Look, I want to make the viewers happy." So he had to go learn the game, and now he loves golf. So what are some things that you've had to learn just even though you were a sports fan, that you maybe weren't as familiar with for people to see that wanted that were watching you guys coverage.
Yeah, no, that's really funny. I love Rob J. I think that archery one was interesting. That was interesting. Like I think doing a story on like cornhole and like all of the nuances that's in that game. I know now for me here in Nashville, I'm not really big on hockey that much. And so we have the Predators.
Oh, I forgot about the
And
Predators.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I have to do a lot of research on that because, like, my sports director will tell me, if you don't know what you're talking about, those fans are going to know that you're kind of BSing it. So, I've really been trying to do a lot of research on that to get my knowledge up on the hockey. That's kind of one that has tripped me up.
Yeah, and they're a hot tickets. I mean, and they're obviously a fan
Yeah,
favorite, so the fans are
yeah,
going to hear about it. So that's a great point. I forgot all about that. You know, if and that would be even on the news side as well. If you move to a new area, you're going to have to learn the area politics. You're going to have to
yeah.
learn the community.
Hmm.
Even on the weather side, you're going to have to learn how the weather is. So
That's
doing
the excellent
research
point.
on your viewers and on your community is a huge part of it, on top of being able to shoot a newscast. So that's a great,
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's a great point. And then also, and with that archery story, that's something about the news industry that's kind of cool, is because if you see something different that you're like, you know, these people aren't a major sport, that'd be great to give this some coverage, especially during an off season of football. You know, if sports is kind of slow, you can find cool stuff like that and show your personality.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's really good. Yeah, and I think also anything's a story. You can find a story in anything. The fact that I didn't even remember I did that story. But the fact that I did go out there and find a story at an archery competition,
Yeah.
it was crazy. So you can find a story anywhere. Everyone has a great story, and especially in sports. It's really cool.
Yeah, and then plus you see on the local news viewers say, you know, we're sick of seeing all the sad stuff. We want to see stuff that's happy,
Mhm.
and it gives these people a platform
Yeah.
because especially now with social media and the internet, it's going to be online. You know, it gives them a chance to get the word out about their new programs and get, you know, with the archery, it's one of the fastest growing sports in America, and you gave them a platform just by going and shooting in Clinton that day.
Yeah. That was definitely in Clinton. I forgot about that. And I know like when I was in Memphis, I did a story on roller skating and or no, what is it? Speed skating. Speed skating. There was like a teen girl that was one of the best speed skaters in the country. And so I got to go to the rink and like watch her skate. And so it's really, there's always going to be some fun story and people overcoming an obstacle to get to their goal. And those are the stories that really move me. That's my passion.
Yeah, and now and before I get to the students' questions, one thing I know they're all going to want to know, and obviously in this line of work you can't be starstruck, and I've never been a starstruck person either. But
Yeah.
obviously, being in Memphis, you dealt with John Morant. There in Nashville, you know, you're dealing with Derrick Henry, Mike Vrabel,
Mm.
and the Preds, and then you know when you were here in Jackson, you dealt with Jackson State, Alcorn, Ole Miss, and you had a great story in Omaha when Mississippi State was in the College World Series. So
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and you get to meet some pretty big time people. But who was some more of these sports celebrities that you've met over the years?
Um, you named a few of them. You named a few of them. I know it's funny because Deion Sanders is now in Jackson, but before when he was coaching high school, he would do a football camp in the town that I lived in Wichita Falls, Texas, because the Cowboys used to have their training camp up there. So he goes back every year and he does a camp. And I actually got to meet him on like my second day of the job doing sports.
Wow.
And he like there's pictures on my Instagram if you want to pull it, but he completely like took the microphone from me and showed me how to hold the mic and like how to ask questions and how to interview people. So that was a really fun moment. If I ever got to meet him again, I would bring it up, but I didn't get a chance to because we didn't overlap in Jackson. I left and then he came in. So
Yeah, and I guess you were transitioning out of Memphis when they played TSU in Memphis, so that was right at
well,
the transition time.
yeah, and then well, they would come to Memphis for Southern Heritage Classic, but he wasn't that available. He's not that available.
Yeah, well, I've heard he had to go through 7 people just to get with him.
Yeah.
I forgot. I'd be remiss. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this, and I forgot about this. Obviously, this is a male-dominated industry.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
you know, I mean, there's the Sage Steels, and I'm a big fan of Shanae Agumake, and you know, I've already mentioned her. And you have
Mhm.
the Holly Rose and the Linda Combs of the world, but there's still not a lot of females in sports journalism. So,
Yeah.
why is there such a need for females to get involved in this? Because obviously, yeah, you know, in Mississippi, we just had the story of the first ever all female football all football referee crews. So
Mhm.
there's a need for women in sports. So what can these young ladies that are maybe kind of on the fence saying, I don't think they'll take me seriously? Why is there a need for them in this field?
Just for that reason there. If there's more of us, then it becomes the norm. It's still not the norm to see us. And so because of that, people question our knowledge and question if we know what we're talking about and those types of things. So the more that we can get women involved in wanting to do and be in this profession, like I just said, it's not the norm anymore.
Yeah.
So people turn on their TV and they're like, oh, okay, there's a female in sports. That's not an issue.
And it also gives a great platform for the female sports. I know, obviously in
And
Tennessee,
that too.
Tennessee over in Knoxville, you got one of the most storied women's basketball programs in the world.
Yes.
And
And I
it's
got to
also,
cover Mississippi State when they were at the top, when Schaefer was there. And so yeah. And Ole Miss actually looks really good this year. So
uh, yeah. And so it's, and the
in
SEC,
Jackson State women's basketball, I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm
they had the
sorry.
two big wins. Yeah, they beat Texas Tech the other night. So, I mean,
Yeah.
and that proves right there you're still following it. So that's really impressive. But I
Yeah.
do have some questions from the students, and these are all ninth graders.
I'm scared. Okay.
All right, this is Stephen Taylor, and he said, what is the favorite event you've ever covered?
Oh, okay, Stephen. I'm probably gonna say the NCAA tournament and got to follow Memphis last year to Portland or last season to Portland.
Oh, wow.
So that was like back in March. That was really fun.
Yeah, and
Clear
so
season.
obviously you had to do a Calipari there, so I know he's an interesting character on camera as well.
Well, no, he's gone. He's gone.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, there's Penny there. So
That's
we have
right.
to
It's
deal with
Yeah, it's
Penny.
Hardaway. That's right. Yeah, forgot about that. Well, that's another character. They're always going to have a character as their coach.
Yeah, Memphis fans don't like Calipari.
Yeah, for obvious reasons. Um,
But yeah, that had to be the most fun thing that I've done so far is getting to travel and go to a city that I've never been to before and then cover the NCAA tournament. So that was fun. Yeah.
that's really cool. I've never been to Oregon either. That does sound like fun. This is Morgan Thompson, and she asked, "Does
Okay.
it stress you out to have such a busy schedule?"
Yeah, it does, Morgan. And I sleep a lot, or I try to sleep as much as I can. Naps are important to me. So it is a little bit stressful, but I'm kind of used to it now.
This is this is a great question, and we didn't really talk about this. This is Kiana May, and she asked,
Okay.
"If you're reporting, do you memorize your report or do you read off a teleprompter?"
Okay, Kiana. So if I'm in studio, I have a teleprompter. If I'm live in the field, it's all me. So I have to memorize at least just the intro and then the tag. And then when I'm covered with video, then I can look down at my prompter. But that is kind of one of the most nerve-wracking parts of the job is the live part because you're having to memorize your script and you have to know in your head, this is live. I can't stop. So whatever I say, we just got to keep going. Yeah.
Well, this is Taylor Jones, and she asked, "What's the hardest part about covering sports?"
Oh, man. That is a really good question, Taylor. The hardest part. Maybe not being biased,
Ooh, well, I think that'd
you
be
know,
interesting news.
especially like every school, every city that I lived in, those teams that I covered, I now secretly root for those teams, you know? And so like even though I'm in Nashville now, I still root for the Grizzlies. I still watch the Memphis Tigers. I still watch Jackson State. I still watch Jackson State. I still watch Alcorn. I'm still checking to see what they're doing, but I think that's probably the hardest part is not being biased and you know, reporting the facts, not my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that'd be on the news side as well. And
Yes.
I've heard several news people say, "Look, I feel this way, but I have to understand half of my audience doesn't feel that way. I got to be able to present the facts and let them make the decision." And even though
Yeah.
you don't have as much of that on the sports side, you do have the issues where somebody gets suspended for something. You just say they were suspended for this. Here's what the coach said happened, and let them decide whether or not it was a good decision.
Yes, that is true.
This is Shunquez Harris, and he asked,
Okay.
"Do you ever get scared when you know you're about to go live on television?"
Shanquez, yes, I do. We just talked about that. Yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking. Sometimes I shake a little bit, my nerves. But then once you get done, then it's an adrenaline rush and you're like, oh my God, let's do it again. So you will be nervous, especially like when you first get into the business and you start doing live shots and you're kind of nervous. But then you get more comfortable.
This is a good one. This is Randy Miggins, and he asked, "Have you
Okay.
ever been scared of someone that you had to interview?"
Uh no, I haven't, Randy. And I think it's just because they're people, just like you and I. Like they're people. You just start with saying, "Hey, how you doing today?" You know, maybe do your research on them to kind of break the ice. Like, oh, I saw you're from here. I have a family member that lives there, or I actually grew up there. That kind of helps them warm up to you. And then it just, you want it just to feel natural, like a conversation. So
Yeah,
no, I don't really get.
and I think it's important to realize too that especially the professional athletes, it's not like it's their first time.
Yeah.
You're a professional. Yeah, they're a professional athlete, but it's not like they've never been interviewed before. And then building that rapport with them is, when you're there for a while, when you have teams and you have players that are there a long time, they're going to know you, and then it's important to build that relationship. So then you don't have that intimidation, because I love the picture of you interviewing Fred McNair, because to me, he just seems like such an imposing figure, and you have this most serious look on your face, and I'm like, that guy's a teddy bear. What are you scared for?
I know. And I literally told him, like, yeah, you're going to talk to me. Sometimes I do that. I'm like, yeah, just come over here, talk to me really quick. It's okay.
I just got one more from the students. This is Caitlin McGee, and she
Okay.
asked, even though you changed your major from physics, what made you want to get into your current job?
Um, you said Caitlin. Is this
Yep.
Caitlin? Okay, Caitlin. So it's funny enough, but my mom was a communications major in college. I think she minored in speech. And secretly, she always wanted to be a TV anchor. She always wanted to be a news anchor. And she just never did it. Life came at her fast. She got married, she had kids, and she ended up working at a bank for a long time. And I think that I was like talking to a lady that was telling me that sometimes what we do is passed down through our genes, right? So like even like my dad and my dad's in IT, my brother does cybersecurity. So it's kind of like we kind of do what our parents like too. It's genetics. So I think that's kind of how I got into it. And I just knew that like even when I was younger, I always wanted to give a voice to people who didn't have one.
That's
I
awesome.
always want to, stand up for people and like, no, I'm going to speak for them. Um, and then I think once I got into school, I was like, okay, I want to be a journalist in some form of fashion. And I think that really came down to my mom being communications and her love for that too.
That's awesome. Now, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much. I know you're really busy, and we thank you for making some time for us today. But before we go, we've already talked about the importance of females in this field and how it needs to be diverse. But we need some more minorities in this field, whether
Yes.
Black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. So what can these young people do now if they're interested in being in the news industry? Because obviously, with all the growing technology, there's going to be more jobs, and the news industry needs them. And like you just said, there's opportunities to move and travel and see places you've never seen. So, what can these young people do now to get ready to move into that role if that's something they're interested in?
Yeah, I think just get involved in any way that they can. If there's, like you mentioned, there's programs on campus within the Madison County School District that you can get involved in. And then when you get to college, get involved with your campus newspaper or your campus TV station. Try to see if you can do some internships at local TV stations because they would love to have people come in. And then if you want to just do fun stuff on your social media, it's like if you're a big Titans fan and you want to talk Titans after the game live on Facebook or live on Instagram, do it. And there's going to be people that are going to engage with you and interact with you, and then you'll start to build a fan base. But I do feel like it is good though to get that what do you call it? The experience from news stations or from a local newspaper, um, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think
and
that's a good one.
and
Yeah.
and 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 it's just like you have a diverse group of athletes, you need a diverse group of news people. It's very important to
Yeah,
have great representation across the board. But
I
again,
agree.
Samaria Terry, WKRN, right there in Nashville. We really thank you so much for taking some time for us today after your crazy schedule.
It is crazy, but thank you so much for having me come on.
Oh, no problem. Next time I'm in Nashville, I got to hang out.
Yeah, it's fun up here.
Oh, I know it. I'll see you soon, my friend.
Thank you.
See ya.
Okay.